Welcome back. I'm Justina from Practice Test Academy, and this is part 3 out of our ACCA BT Corporate Governance series with Anthony. Today we go beyond profit into social responsibility, what CSR means, the 4 stages companies use, and why it now affects funding and reputation. Over to you, Anthony.
So in this video, we'll take a look at the concept of corporate social responsibility. And really, corporate social responsibility deals with the concept that whilst many organizations, for-profit organizations, are driven mostly by the intent and notion that the primary aim is to increase shareholder wealth via distribution of dividends and also growth of company assets, and that might be its sole intention. Corporate responsibility takes a view that organizations have an obligation to the broader community of stakeholders over and above just shareholders. So that includes ecological issues, it includes the environment, it includes society at large, etc. So the notion of corporate social responsibility starts to move towards, and it is by no means a fixed mind or fixed point. It's a continual conversation around the notion of best practice and where the corporate social responsibility line is drawn. But what the different aspects that can be then given to organizations is to take care of the corporate responsibility are different strategies in the way that they can do that. So organizations it's possible for them to take a proactive, a reactive defense strategy or an accommodating strategy. In a proactive strategy, an organization would look at itself within the broader environment in which it operates and would proactively come up with notions and behavior patterns that it wishes to encourage, which means that the broader environment is taken into account, not only the shareholders. This might be slightly different from a reactive strategy, is where a company would operate as it does with its main intention of creating maximum shareholder wealth, and then what it does is wait for response from different parties, different organizations, and then adjust its behavior, adjust its path on the way forward. A defensive strategy would be where obligations that arise from problems or from actions taken by the company would have negative effect on that company. So a company is continuously riding that fine line of just making sure that it doesn't have situations that then cause a disruption to its operations, without taking a proactive strategy of, for example, putting a broader strategy, a broader approach into place. And then an accommodation strategy would be where a company might set up a specific division to deal with corporate social responsibility, where it's continually in dialogue with the different groups, different stakeholders. And what it does is it is involved in the discussions and involved in the generation of the legislature and the corporate environment that it exists in. So the responsibility taken by corporates towards the greater society and to the environment, the benefits that occur when companies do entertain this behavior is that, first of all, for the broad community, for the general community, it does assist with the balance in power, in that some organizations can be extremely powerful from a financial and from an influence point of view, and making sure that there is a corporate social responsibility outline and that there's governance thereof. It makes sure that organizations don't overstep the boundaries and act to the detriment of the broader community. What the corporate social responsibility infrastructure and investment also is trying to achieve is that it recognizes that companies are relying on broader infrastructure and broader societal input, and that they don't stand as an island with only one goal in mind, which is profit maximization. So it takes into account that there's a symbiotic relationship between the organizations and the industry which operates and society in large. Moreover, the externalities and the public relations mean that the interplay between the organization and the external parties and the public and the environment are ongoing, and that they are communicated and then continually adjusted to. Where the downside for corporate social responsibility arises, or certainly from, in many instances, shareholders will take a point, is that they'll argue that shareholders are responsible for deciding what to do with their funds. So if they wish to donate, for example, to charities, they would do so out of their own accord, and they should not be obliged to do. The argument would be, in many instances, that they already pay tax via the corporates, and this then funds society at large. It's a balancing act in that a purely profit-motivated approach sometimes leaves other issues like environmental degradation, etc., out to play, and when it's too late for those to be rectified, it really is too late. So the argument then comes is that companies are free acting agents. They should be responsible for making up their own decisions, and that they already pay towards the infrastructure. The balancing argument would be, in the instance that the shareholders don't act in the broader benefit to society and act solely for their own good, it can lead to degradation of the environment and just the general environment around them. Regarding the importance of these strategies within organizations in the modern day, is that I think that it has become expected by customers and trading partners and stakeholders that companies do start to take care of the broader environment. So towards building brand name and keeping the customer's expectations of the corporate in a positive line, rather than being detrimented by negative actions by the customer, by the corporation, the corporate social responsibility approach and putting into place an environment that a company is upholding these standards, it leads to greater longevity for the company and also improved relations with the environment and the society at large. This then goes on to include other trading partners who may want to be doing trade, particularly with companies that share similar values as to how they approach corporate social responsibility. And it's the same thing with staff, etc., as staff members may wish to work for companies that they know are caring towards the broader environment. Where it starts to become very important from an investment and funding point of view is that many investment organizations and funding organizations have started to implement requirements within their funding. Over, for example, a year, they're required to fund so much towards companies that uphold a certain standard of corporate social responsibility. So these grants and levels of funding become accessible when effort is put into creating an environment that is within the corporate social responsibility parameter.